Hi, everyone, and welcome to Coffee with Craig, where I talk about some of my psychic work. I talk about what's happening, particularly with topical type of issues at the moment. I'm going to review some of the psychic predictions I've already made for you and give you a few new ones today as well. So put your comments. Because if you're joining me live, put your comments. If you've joined me after I've gone live, put your comments too, because that's what makes this channel very interesting, I think, because we have a think together about what's going to happen in the future. And as I'm the first to say, I don't always get it right. And it's important to remember that. And that should apply to all psychics, because the future's not completely set. It's subject to our free will, because if it was completely set, well, we might as well just forget about it and just give up. But we can change the world and make the world a better place. Saying that, these are some of my thoughts about some of the current things that are happening in the world. Now, the first one I wanted to suggest is some thoughts about Joe Biden, because I think anybody watching the news at the moment will see that the man does not seem to be completely in control of his faculties, does he? Now, I was saying right back at the beginning of this year, and right back, if you look back at my videos, I was saying right at the beginning that I really didn't think that Joe Biden is going to last his term, and he certainly won't get a second term. And it's becoming more and more apparent, isn't it, that whatever your politics in America, Joe Biden does not really seem to be doing a particularly good job. It seems like the people in the background are making all the policy decisions. They wheel out Joe Biden and wheel him off again as soon as there's any questions in the news. And any journalists want to talk to him and so forth. So it's a pretty dire situation, particularly with the world leader like Joe Biden in a position like he is at the moment. Now, I said that I feel that I said earlier on in the year, right back in 2021, didn't I, that the American midterm elections, there's going to be an absolute catastrophe for the Democrats in that time. We're going to see them win both houses. And that's pretty hard to do, particularly at the current position that it's in at the moment. But I see both houses being lost from the to the Republican Party, and this is going to cause absolute chaos, because also in the party we also have their Kamila Harris, don't we, who is doing equally a bad a job as Joe Biden. She's doesn't seem to have the sort of illnesses that Biden seems to have. And I think anybody that's honest about these things would say, look, the man seems to completely lose the plot sometimes. I do too sometimes, but no, he's really seems to have really lost the plot sometimes. And I think it's worrying for everybody around the world when you see this, particularly in these times that are so critical, as the world's moving through some of the worst times since the Second World War. And, and we've just come out of a pandemic, which is one of the worst influenza type, one of the worst illnesses that we've had since the Spanish flu influenza outbreaks and so forth. Two major problems. And we've got people like that running the countries or running the world, because that's what America basically should be, the world leader nowadays. They're taking over where Britain used to be. When they're way down the path now, we are down the pecking order. So I think that I don't think Kamala Harris would take over from him if he goes, because there's just not going to let it happen. And this is where my next prediction comes in, because I said, now, if you look back at my predictions from some time ago now, I said that Elizabeth Warren would be the contender for the American presidency. Now, I'm seeing her stepping in when Biden and Kamala Harris are full flat. And I'm not saying she's going to be president, because I don't think she will be, because we've got a while till 2024 when the presidential elections come. But she could be certainly perhaps a caretaker position there. So it's going to be absolute chaos. It's going to be chaos. And I can't particularly, I say, I'm being contradictory here in some things of what I say because I can't see it all clearly, but I was seeing something with Elizabeth Warren taking a major role and possibly a caretaker sort of government coming in, not necessarily with anybody particularly in control. So I'm seeing this happening. I'm seeing Joe Biden being removed rather swiftly from office, and Kamila Harris not being able to step up and take the position, and then an absolute collapse in the midterms. And leading up to that, of course, another thing I said, didn't I, that Trump would get back on Twitter, and we're going to see that happening soon. I see in the news there as well. So maybe we're going to see a complete swing back to politics like it was before, with this very sort of divisive politics, but also a little bit more dynamic, and a wake-up call happening in America. So that's one of my first predictions, particularly there about the sudden and fairly sudden removal of Biden coming up, I think, quite soon. I feel with this, and I'm seeing Elizabeth Warren stepping into political shoes to try to maybe even be a caretaker of some sort over that period. We've got similar problems here in the UK in some respects. We've had a lot of leadership challenges for the parliamentary positions, and in particular, we've seen recently Boris Johnson almost being shaken out of power, but hanging on in there. And now over the, whatever we want to call it, Currygate, I think would be a good word for it, wouldn't it? We have the new problems around Kier Starmer. Now, again, if you look at my earlier predictions for 2022, I said that Kier Starmer would be removed from his position as leader of the shadow, as the opposition, rather. So, as the shadow prime minister, whatever you would call him. But I was at the time, I don't know whether what I was seeing was what I'm seeing that's happening now, i.e. his position under such a serious position of threat, because he said if they prosecute him, if the police prosecute him, then he's going to resign. And of course it's a big gamble. He's gone in saying, yes, I've got higher morals than everybody else. And therefore, if I get a fine, I'm going to resign, thinking perhaps in his mind that no way are the police going to put him in that position. So I think he's done a gamble there, frankly. It might backfire, and I'm not 100% sure of it, but I did say in my earlier predictions at the beginning of the year, and actually, if you follow my predictions, those are the ones in many respects that are kind of the most important, because I get those way before we see the events happening. And then when I start to see events like this unfolding, I think, now, was that what I was seeing? It's almost a bit like someone else has seen it, I mean, because I see these things, I write them down. I think that sounds daft. And I tell you lot, I think we just lost my channel a little bit. Sorry, I hope we're still transmitting. There was a blink of the camera overheated, I think. But then I tell you lot, and oh God, problem with the camera there. Hopefully we won't get any more of that. I think we're still broadcasting. So I'm not going to say tell you lot again, because it seems like the camera don't like it. And then I share the ideas with you, actually, and I've lost my track now. And then I have to kind of look at it again and think, oh, what did I mean by that? Because I don't know either, in a way, because it's given partly through, it's like what I call perhaps a form of unconscious clairvoyance. So now, if Keir Starmer does go, which I think he will, I would then reference another prediction I made some time ago, because another prediction I made 2 years ago is that I felt that Yvette Cooper would be a future leader of the Labour Party. And that could be a likely proposition now, actually. So maybe another one of my earlier predictions may be coming to pass. She's not the main contender. I expect Angela Rayner would be one of the main contenders if Starmer goes, and also Andy Burnham would be another contender. But just looking at it logically, Andy Burnham is a bit extreme, and I think although they've had the worries of what happened with the Corbyn period, would they really want somebody like him in control, because he'd be a little bit too extreme for the Labour Party? Angela Rayner, I personally hate her, but could she be a contender? Yvette Cooper is more sensible, and she's also taken the reins before. So if I'm right, now if I might be seeing my things wrong, that might come up for later on. But if what happens now and Starmer does trip up with this and it backfires, there's my predictions that I feel Yvette Cooper is going to be the one that steps in. I'm going to say one other thing that is on my mind too is Putin, of course, because we're all been talking about Putin. And the news now has been saying, is Putin ill? Is Putin ill? Now, Jane and myself have both predicted in our individual videos that Putin is ill. And it seems like now it's becoming more and more apparent. And this is something I think where a prediction is perhaps coming to pass here. How long is always very difficult when you could do psychic things. But my thought is that I feel something soon is going to happen with Putin. I think the recent parades they've had for the victory parades of victory over Nazi Germany that happened, the press are now saying, and they're putting reports of saying some of his generals were missing. Why was that? Is there a coup in the background happening? And they're now talking about, does he look ill? He had to have a blanket when they had the parades and things like that. Now, tough man Putin sat in a blanket. That's not a good image. He wouldn't normally do that, would he? He likes to be the man bare-chested on a horse. So there's a question marks that perhaps he has got some serious problems going on there, and perhaps there is a lot of reshuffling going in the background, and also perhaps a lot of complaints by other countries such as Belarus and things saying, what's going on here? We don't like this. Could we go along with this? So there must be all sorts of international and internal questions going on about Putin. So I think he's going to, again, this is another prediction really for you, is that I feel that Putin is going to be removed very soon. I think it's going to happen quite soon. I feel it in my bones that it's going to happen very soon. So what do you think? I would like your comments. I'm going to look at some of your live comments in a minute and put some of them up on the screen. But I would also suggest that you put your ideas too. I'd be very interested, particularly if those of you that join me who are astrologers and psychics, because I know a lot of you come together on this channel. What's your thoughts? Is it soon? Is he going to go soon? And what would the consequence of that be? Obviously, we'll look at things like that as in future issues of these video releases and the vlog. And one more other thing I was picking up as well. I think we're going to start seeing Kim Jong back again in the news again very shortly. I think there's something also happening there with some problems with another coup going on in the background there. I get the feeling there's something happening behind the scenes with him. I feel almost as if his destiny is following a similar course to Putin's. But I'll tell you more about that a little bit later on. Because those are my just initial thoughts about that. But again, I just feel that coming up in the news in the coming, say, month or so. I feel most of my things I predict usually take about 3 weeks if I'm doing a short-term prediction. So perhaps sometime in the next 3 weeks, you can come back here. And I know there's a lot going on in Australia. I don't know enough about Australian politics. I know you've got a big debate coming up shortly. But I thought there was that guy, what was his name? Albo, was it? I felt as if he was going to get clobbered. Actually, I think you've got a big debate, and I think the Australian debate is going to be moving much more towards the problems of inflation and economic problems. And I think a lot of these things are going to hit Australia quicker than some of the rest of us, because we've got a pretty big recession ahead coming up soon. Now, that's the end of my prediction bit. I won't. You can ask me any questions now on those topics that I've raised. So don't go ask me, what's going to happen in the, Chad elections or anything like that. I'm going to keep to what I've just got. But I'll be interested to see some of your comments now. I'm going to have a look on see what's going on there, and have a look at some of your questions. And you can ask me any other questions too, because we'll have a little bit longer left just to have a little chat about any other things that you're interested in, all things psychic, basically. So now I'm going to have a look at our. Bear with me, and we'll see what you've been saying, you guys. I'll go back up to the top. I can see I can get a list on the side of the screen here. A lot of nice hellos. I'll click a few hellos while I'm having a look at you. Thank you guys for joining me. Nice of you to come all the way from Hong Kong. I see there too. And of course, Michigan there, I just put up a second ago. I see you coming quite a lot, Carrie, before. And right down to Australia too. So we've got the whole world at the moment. It's quite a good time to do these broadcasts, isn't it? Yeah, down there in Australia again. Well, there's an interesting one. The last news: Biden's sister had announced Meghan Markle will make a good president. Yeah, that's pretty good, isn't it? Maybe I think that's a brilliant comment. I had to put it up, Beatrice. Thank you. Yeah, and I think Meghan Markle actually, I think we said this before, that she would want to try to become some political force. She sees herself as almost like an Oprah Winfrey sort of character. I know she did the interviews with her, but she sees herself like that, you see. And God knows what that would be if she went into politics. I don't think she'd get many votes, but I think she might even have a stab at it one day. So there might be some method, there might be something in your madness there, Beatrice, which I think is quite amusing. I just stick a few more hellos. I'm not going to say personally to each of you, just to let you know that you're there, guys. Thank you. Actually, I'll comment on that one as well, because I said I said there's going to be riots in Paris this year, didn't I? And I think there's going to be a lot of upheaval in Paris in the coming months. And I know you've just had the elections there. That should settle everything down, but in many ways, it's making things worse, I think. Hi, space aliens. Hi, space aliens. Nice to see you. Glad you got the space aliens with you, Patrick. Nice. Keep taking the medication. Yeah, what else you got here? I'm putting them up without reading them, because normally Domenico does it. Hello from Colombia. What are your impressions on the upcoming presidential elections in Colombia? I don't know. Can't answer that type of question, I'm afraid, because I just don't know enough about it to even be able to comment on it. So sorry, guys, I can't do that. In fact, with all these predictions, I have to sort of just kind of tune in and get what I get, tell you what I get. I don't know it all. Me and Jane don't know it all. People think, oh, you guys seem to know everything, but it's not like that. We get bits and pieces. You know, as I say it a lot of times. I think it's a nice way of expressing it. It's like through a mirror darkly. I don't know if that's just an idea you're getting, Brown Eye Lady. Unelected president, it's not Biden. I mean, there's definitely people behind the scenes that pull the strings. Someone has to pull the strings, and who's doing it? You know, this is where these ideas of Illuminati and the rest of it come in, isn't it? You know, are the hidden forces at work behind all our politics? And I don't hail with the David Icke sort of ideas that there's a secret society that's been there since the year dot, since Egyptian times or whatever he says. But I do think there are hidden forces, and those hidden powers, being quite normal, it corrupt people, just as, you know, who would step into power at a moment's notice if they could. So I think there's very nasty things, particularly, you know, going on behind the big world powers and behind the big corporate businesses, you know, in America, in China, you know, in Russia. You know, who really pulls the strings? This is the one I'll have to address later on, Anderson, because I mentioned China's intention of taking over Taiwan. This is still there. And still, what I say is, you know, it's in my earlier predictions at the beginning of the year, so I still hold by it. I don't have a rough time frame. This is always the problem with all of it. The time frame is very hard, and maybe there's a reason for that. Maybe it's something to do with the fact that, you know, when you psychic work, you kind of look into beyond time, aren't you? It's not quite in linear time. You're seeing what's happening, but you can't quite get that feeling of linear time. And maybe things happen according to human will. in some respects, that, like I say, we can make things happen, but even our thoughts can change the way the world happens. It's almost a bit like a multiverse idea, but that's perhaps something we can explore at another time. Pray for peace, indeed. Yes, that's true. Does it mean the US monetary system will collapse? No, but I think we're ahead for some really difficult things in the near future. I'll discuss those in a future video, because it's pretty self-evident. It's pretty evident now, isn't it, that we do have rampant inflation on the way. I again said that, if you look at my earlier videos, that was what I was saying. You know, I did the 22 video. I also did a separate one for Russia, but in the main one, with all the stuff excluding the Russia predictions, I said about that the world would see rampant inflation, and it's happening, and I don't think many people, we haven't had this for a long time, so not many people remember the times when we had bad inflation and the consequences of it, and how it hit everybody's pocket in such a way that it became, you know, lots of people being evicted from houses and things happened the last time it happened, you know, here in the UK, certainly. Actually, the Pope one's an interesting one as well. I think I might address that at another time, actually, because I did have some thoughts about the Pope, actually. I feel as if the Pope is having his last attempt to try to do something good in the world. Whatever you might think about popes and the things like that, I actually think the Pope that's in power at the moment is, you know, he models himself on St. Francis, and I think that was, I found that a very reassuring idea, because St. Francis was a person who challenged the papacy in his time. St. Francis was a person who also made the Pope kneel in front of him. In fact, I believe, I think it's in one of the paintings in Assisi. One of the paintings there showed that. So I think he's a powerful force, actually, for good, I think. If he goes, I get the feeling the next Pope after him, and there's a prediction for you, which I didn't intend to make, but I feel the next Pope that follows him will be a black Pope. Okay. Warren cannot step in. She may run for president for 2024. Yeah, yes. The way it stands at the moment, I don't think she can, because this is what I say. American politics. This is why I say it's confusing for me, because I don't really understand American politics particularly. But I get people ask me about it. I get these feelings about it. But I think she's going to have a big role here, a very big role. That's kind of what I'm saying. I can't quite see what's happening at the top there. And like I also said, I'm seeing when Trump runs next, there's going to be a black woman that runs with him, right, who could even become the president herself one day. Here we go, into opinions already. Harris is as dysfunctional as Biden, right? I'm interested to see what you think. You know, I'm not, you know, both sides. Let's get both sides. You know, everybody. What do you think? You know, do you think Joe Biden is a great guy? If you do, put your comments in. You know, stick up for him and tell us what you think, and tell me if you think I'm wrong, as without getting too rude. You know. Okay, so it's quite nice to see your comments there, guys. And I think I'm going to finish there, actually, because I think that's quite an interesting point to finish. And I thank you again for all of your comments. I don't want to make these videos too long. They're more like a taster sort of idea, just to give you a sort of a feeling about the ways ahead. And I'll do these every now and again, as well as sort of more spiritual minded ones as well, you know, so that we can not just be worrying about the world and what's going on in the world, but we can, you know, we can start thinking a bit more about spiritual values, about how we can improve ourselves and how we can become a better people. And because the world's always going to be a difficult and hard place, isn't it? It's always going to be a place where, you know, if you were born at the time when Jesus walked the earth, you had all the horrors of Rome. You know, if you were born at the time of Buddha, you had crisis happening in India. If you were born at the time when Muhammad came into the world, there was crises happening then in the Middle East, and the conflicts happening at the same time. They're all in every era, whenever spiritual things happen. There's always terrible things around in the world. So, and like I say, I feel we are in a time, it's a very expectant time, actually, when the world is going to enter into a much better phase, into a time when, you know, this is all an awakening period. And we should be focusing on our awakening, because when we're in these dark times, when we're in these times of Kali Yuga, as it were, as the Indians call it, the dark times, and there's the changing of the age, these sort of, as bardos, as the Buddhists call it, are times when there's good opportunities for a person to awaken, good opportunities for quick spiritual development. So we should use these times. And maybe, you know, if you'd like to join me some other time, I'll give some talks soon about how we can develop our spirituality, and how we can use things such as yogic techniques, meditation, and awareness in ordinary life to make our lives better. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for joining me. See you soon. Bye for now.